This is the Bates Bobcast, our weekly podcast that takes a look at the week that was in Bates athletics. My name is Aaron Morse, and this week we introduce you to new Bates women's tennis head coach Deepak Sharma as the Bobcats head to the ITA New England Championships in Brunswick this weekend to start their fall schedule. He and men's tennis head coach Paul Gastonguay join the show to fill us in on the start of a new era in Bates tennis. Plus, we preview the men's golf season with their senior captains and to take a look back on a week of Bates athletics that had a consistent theme, defense, including another play that ended up on ESPN. All that and more coming up on the Bates Bobcast. The Bates football team held Amherst to just 190 yards of total offense in Saturday's season opener, the fewest yards allowed by the Bobcats in one game since 2015. But despite the strong start to the season, the Mammoths prevailed by a score of 19-7. Head coach Matt Coyne recaps the first game of the year for Bates. Well, Coach, the Amherst game, let's start with the defense, because I thought they were terrific. I mean, Amherst could barely move the ball most of the game. Tell me about what you saw from the defense that made them so effective on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it's the growth in our program. I think the physicality, that year in the weight room and the development from a lot of the kids that were first years last year, that a lot of them are sophomores this year, coupled with our seniors and juniors out there that were playing. I mean, we were just more physical. We were very disciplined as well too. I think in the run game, 26 carries for 50 yards. Like if we could live in that world, that's gonna be awesome. And I think our coaches had a good game plan, and the guys executed it. And you saw extreme growth from last year to this year with just our play speed, our physicality, and up front. I thought we did a really good job against a decently sized O-line.
Yeah, and then the turnover that you guys caused that eventually led to the Bates touchdown. Take us through that play and what you saw from the rookie making the big hit, right?
Yeah, so still have one first year out there. We had a few first years playing on that defense, but starting out there, Marquez, very talented individual, and that was his first game, and really, he played an unbelievable game throughout the entirety. They tried him a few times vertically. On that play, it was they ran sort of a little boot concept there, and they threw a flat ball, and he zoned off, came down, and profile tackled, helmet on the ball, and then, Spence came in from behind and, scooped it up and really changed the momentum there and got us in some positive field position, to be able to let our offense go down and get that score to go up 7-3.
And what does it say about the defense? Obviously, the game did not start the way you wanted, right, with a fumble on the kick return, but they held them to a field goal in a situation where a lot of teams might give up a touchdown.
Yeah, I think if you look at the past histories, that might have got away from some teams previously, and I think that's the growth. And I say, not being obsessed with the outcomes. Obviously, our goal is to win, and it stinks to lose that game because we felt that we matched up physically with them, and we just lacked in some minor executions in some areas. But to have the defense be able to come out there and force the field goal, and then we had a mishap on our punt unit, right, that ended up in no points as well. So really to give up 3 points on those two situations, obviously we've got to clean those areas up. But to be able to have that sort of in your bag there, to be able to rely on your defense to be able to sit there and just give up 3 rather than 7. Those are momentum swings, and that's also just a part of the growth and the development that you see on that side of the ball from last year to this year. So I was very pleased with that.
And then obviously the game was a defensive struggle. On offense, you guys did unveil some option concepts, trying to get stretch it out a little bit horizontally, get to the edge. Some mixed results there. Take us through your impressions of the debut of kind of a new look for your offense.
Yeah, I think for us, we just had some minor missed executions. When we watch the film and you pause it at certain moments, it's like we've got the numbers, and then it's one missed block, it's a wrong read, it's one O lineman taking a wrong step. I think it's part of the development inside of this offense. What we were able to do was reset the line of scrimmage, though. We were able to get 3 to 4 yards at times against a very good defense. I'll tell you that right now, that the Amherst safeties are probably 2 of the best safeties in the league. I know that it's a very talented league, but they were able to fill the alleys and really get that 9-man box in there. And then up front, I was very pleased with us resetting the line of scrimmage and investing in what I believe is what Bates football is. It's being able to find that 3 to 4 yards when you need it. the biggest thing for us is we just weren't able to get the explosive plays when we needed it, and it wasn't a conceptual; it was more of an execution. So I think, on offense, obviously it's the first time we're going out there, and it's going to take a little time, and we're going to get better from it. I think when we watched the film as a team yesterday, guys were like, "Man, I don't know why I didn't do that," And it's one of those where it's like that's the growing pains a bit. But up front, I thought that all 5 of those guys, all seven no linemen played. Obviously Big Pete is our graduate senior, and he did a really good job. But we started 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores that really played their butts off. And they were moving guys that are all conference type players in the front. So there's a lot of promise there. We obviously didn't have Sergio, which was a big loss. And so Jeff Adu, Quinn Carver, first years that got their taste of it, and they did a good job, but they understand that. They had their moments, which they're gonna have. When you're putting a first year out there. But I think overall the effort was there and the physicality was there. Now we've got to clean up the executions because we were able to do some really good things against a really good defense.
Ryan Gleason, first career touchdown catch. He's a sophomore. Take us through his development and take us through that play.
Yeah, so we went. It's a little play action off some of our speed sweeps there, and it was a switch vertical concept. Gleason's one of those guys that gets the most out of everything. Really works his butt off, developing himself and just doing the right things, blocking all the time. So we just saw a rotation down, and Colton was able to find him in the back of the end zone there, and gave us the good momentum off the turnover there to go up 7-3.
You did mix in Seneca for one series, and they moved the ball pretty well. A bad snap obviously hurt on 4th down, but what did you see from him kind of, because he looked pretty comfortable in the moving the pocket with the option?
Yeah, Seneca's extremely athletic and a very talented individual, and he actually, I think he got 2 or 3 possibly. He started the 2-minute drive after that.
Okay.
But we got him in the 4th quarter, and it's his maturation. Inside of this offense, you're going to have multiple people ready to go. And we know his skill set inside of this offense. And at that time, we had to find a little spark. And you saw sort of his growth and his confidence develop, being able to move around, buy time. And you see when he gets out of the pocket, it's a little different, but he was also able to, make a few throws out there too that were very optimistic in his development as a passer as well. And a couple that we didn't connect on that were good decisions. It's just getting that timing down and continuing to work him in, and I saw a lot of growth from that perspective from him.
It was hot out there. I was just on the sideline, but there was not a breeze. It was just hot. And guys obviously were cramping up a little bit. How did the heat play a role in the game?
Yeah, I think with what we did up front, it's why we had to play, why we're trying to develop multiple linemen, because with being as physical as we're trying to be, doubling and working and running, it takes a wear on you, So and for us, we've conditioned and those aspects, but you can never replicate that game in that type of environment, especially up here when it's a few degrees cooler. When we went down there, it was, it had to feel like 95 degrees on the field, and we just at times you're just cramped up, and I know Amherst was feeling it as well. I saw a couple of their guys go out as well, and it's one of those that we got to continue to address the conditioning, and we got to continue to make sure we're hydrated, and we did a really good job of supplying it, but sometimes it's hard to really replicate that in the game, and it happens at times.
Ryan Rozich, linebacker, led the team in tackles, sophomore. The linebacker, and Juno's out there, the linebacker as well. Linebackers seem to be a strength of this team.
Yeah, I think it's holistically up front. I think our defensive line really did a really great job. And we know we're going to lean on them this year. We have a lot of depth there, a lot of quality players there. Rosie and Juno, played really well. Carmel came in a first year as well and got, 3 consecutive tackles on the last drive. Rosie's a stud. He's back in there. He's starting to get, was coming back from a little ding, and now him being out there is just different. And you could see his maturation from a first year to a sophomore on that field, and just the physicality. But also, I think the tackling. Like when we look at our team and you look at the growth, last year we had a ton of missed tackles, a ton of missed assignments, and what you saw out there was guys tackling the right way. And we had one drive where we missed a few, but for us, holistically, him and Mike Spencer was, I believe, our second leading tackler on the day at safety, and he was filling the alley well as well. we're just a much more sound defense right now. We're doing the right things properly, and they've developed the right way. They've taken the coaching and techniques, and I think you just continue to build confidence from it, from what they put in the weight room and their preparation for the year.
So this weekend is the home opener. It's Trinity. They beat Colby, right? But it was only, I think, a 10-point game or something. So, I mean, obviously Trinity is always going to be very good. But what do you know about them entering this year, and what are their hopes for this Saturday?
Yeah, I think for us, it's we welcome the challenge. I think when you look at Amherst, Trinity and Wesleyan to start our season. Obviously, we're focused on Trinity right now, but we get 3 good tests, and for us, it's where's our competition level right now? And we want to go against these top teams because that's what we're chasing. And for us. We know Trinity's going to be physical, big. They're going to throw the ball vertically down the field. They're going to try to, move the ball, and they have some good receivers, and they have a fifth-year quarterback that's starting for them, and they've always had a good O-line. Defensively, they've always been, fast, strong, and physical. But for us, we just went against that, and we're excited about that opportunity to compete against it again. And I think from that end, I mean, you look at the score doesn't always replicate what type of game it was. I think Colby played a heck of a game. And, there was missed opportunities on both sides of the ball for those guys when you look at the film. So I think week 1, too, you can never put too much stock into a good, bad, and indifferent. I think it's the first time teams are getting out there with new players and, new schemes and things like that. So for us, we're just trying to focus on us, get better, watch the tape, find out what Trinity likes to do, and see how we can put ourselves in positions to be successful and compete this weekend.
Great. Well, any other thoughts you want to share on the season opener against Amherst we haven't got to talk about yet?
I think I'm just very proud of how the guys competed and stayed in it, and I think all the way through the end. I mean, obviously we're going to try to find more explosive plays on the offense, and we will do that as we get some guys back. And defensively, just again, I think hats off. I mean, it's pretty special to do something for the first time in almost 9 years. Yeah. I think it was to hold the team to 190 yards. I mean, if we can be around that number, I mean, success will find our way. But it's extreme growth, and now it's our job to continue to compound that. And as we go against a very good team Saturday.
Sophomore linebacker Ryan Rozich was the leading tackler for Bates on Saturday, finishing with 9 total tackles, including 5 solo stops and 2 tackles for loss. And he is our male Bobcat of the week. Well, Ryan, first time on the Bobcast, sophomore linebacker here for the Bobcats. Take me back growing up from Connecticut, right?
Yep.
When did you first get involved in football? When did you realize you had a passion for it?
So ever since I was 6 years old, I've been playing football my entire life, and I remember D-Squad, my first year of football. I stepped on the field and I immediately loved it, and it's kind of taken off ever since then. I've played football then all throughout my youth career and high school career, and I guess that brings me to where I am today, and I wouldn't change it for everything. I truly love this game.
Have you always been a linebacker?
Always been a linebacker, and then in youth and high school I played a little bit of offense, more of like a wing or maybe a fullback. So,
okay, yeah. Always in the middle of the action.
Yep, totally.
And what made Bates the place for you when you're looking at colleges?
When I came to Bates and I sat down in the room with Coach Coyne, and I had a conversation with him, and just seeing how devoted he is to this program and how also devoted he is to each and one of his players, I knew that was a head coach that I wanted to come and play for, and he just immediately sold me as soon as I sat down and talked with him. So, and I think that also even carries over to today and over these past 2 years. There's no other dude that I would want to go to battle for. He pours his heart and soul into this program and into this game.
Right away, last year, the first year, you got thrown in the fire along with some other guys, got to play a lot. What was that experience like? What was the biggest transition, maybe high school to college?
Definitely a transition with just how fast and the speed of the game is. But, I think, the adrenaline and everything after that first game in Wesleyan last year, I feel like I adjusted pretty quick to that. And, at the end of the day, football is football. And no matter what level, you just got to play 100% and just do your thing on the field. It's the same game, and even though the speed may be a little bit different, you can just stick to what you know and just play the game.
Great, and then let's talk about this past Saturday at Amherst. The defense, it was the best performance in terms of total offense allowed since 2015, so you held Amherst to only 190 total yards. What was the key in your mind of the defense's success? What were you noticing? What do you see on film when you watch the tape?
Definitely just the physicality. And while I think we were definitely a physical defense last year, I think this past weekend at Amherst, it was just completely different. And I think this also brings back to like our entire offseason and the way our coaches have prepared us both physically in the weight room and also mentally. I mean, dudes were just flying around the entire day. And honestly, I feel like any of the 10 other dudes that I was playing with on that field could be sitting right where I am right now, and anyone on that defense could have earned this accolade. And I think that it's just very promising looking towards the rest of the season at what we could do.
The accolade being male Bobcat of the week, of course. You led the way with 9 tackles, a couple of tackles for loss. You play linebacker next to Juno, Matt Juno, who's the senior captain, and you're a sophomore. What's that dynamic like? What have you kind of learned from him also?
I mean, there's no one else that I'd rather play linebacker next to. Juno's awesome, and one of the things I look up to him is just his mindset. I mean, he's just a ferocious player. He's always going 100%, and it's truly just, I look up to him for sure and model my game after the way he plays the game, how he prepares to play the game, and he's truly just an amazing player that I want to be just like, for sure.
What's the preparation like? I mean, you mentioned, the way he prepares. How do you model that in terms of what's the key to preparing to have success?
Definitely film.
Yeah.
I mean, we're always watching film throughout the week. We're always making sure we know the checks to certain plays and constantly reviewing the defense. I mean, in practice, he is always making sure that after every play, we know what we're doing. We know what we messed up, what we need to get better at, and it's just putting us in the best position to be able to win a game on Saturday. So
terrific. Now, going forward, we've got the home opener this Saturday against Trinity. What's been points of emphasis? I mean, obviously it's only Tuesday right now, but what are some points of emphasis you guys are going to be working on in practice to, take the next step a little bit? I mean, the defense obviously was outstanding, but just in general as a team, I guess.
So as Coach Coyne says all the time, so the defense looked good, but that's now our new floor. We strive to set new floors and just keep building upon what we're doing every week. So once again, physicality I think was amazing and on point this last week. But for Trinity this next week, we got to bring it up another level. And I think that goes with everything and just completing our assignments, doing our job, and every single person doing that 1/11th. I think this next week it just is that more important. And we just have to keep building on what we're doing. So
now, for you as part of the sophomore class, last year there were some close games, couldn't quite get in the win column. In terms of, keeping your guys' heads up, keeping the confidence up, what's the key for the sophomores in particular, you think, in terms of that to keep working to get a breakthrough, right?
All the sophomores, we're still chasing that first college win.
Right.
So, I mean, that's been my goal. That's our goal. That's, I think, the team's goal, just to win and honestly do anything we can to strive and get that win. I know we're molding a new Bates football culture, and that's something that, football, especially with this sport, it's not just like it doesn't just happen immediately. So every single day we strive to just be better and build upon this culture, and so we can ultimately get to that point where we want with our culture. And that's going to come soon. I know these wins are going to come, and with all the work we're putting in and how we're changing this program, I know the wins are going to come.
I was going to say, it seems like it could be kind of exciting to know that you have a chance to really build something special, not just this year, but the next year and the year after, right?
Totally. I mean, every year we're improving. We have, tons of new guys, young guys stepping up. I know a lot of dudes in the sophomore class building upon from what they did last year, and I think, it's just we have our goal set on to eventually be the champions of this league, and that's not something that's going to happen overnight, but we are working every single day to make that goal come true. So I'm looking forward to it, and I know it's going to happen. So
excellent. Any other thoughts you wanted to share on your time at Bates so far, or the game on Saturday we haven't gotten to talk about yet?
Looking forward. I'm just super excited. I mean, I know there's good things to come for myself, for the rest of this team, and I can't wait. Just like I said, I mean, still chasing that first win, and I know it's going to happen soon, and I can't wait.
Absolutely. Ryan Rozich, our male Bobcat of the week. Big game Saturday at Amherst. 9 tackles, including 2 tackles for loss, 5 solo stops. Defense looking real good. Hopefully everything can come together this Saturday against Trinity, and thank you so much for joining us on the Bobcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Defense was the name of the game for the women's soccer team on Saturday as they played Emerson to a 0-0 draw on the road to remain undefeated on the young season at 2-0-1. Senior captain Ruby Reimann matched her season high with 7 saves in the shutout, and she is our female Bobcat of the week. Well, Ruby, being a senior captain this year so far, I mean, through 3 matches, what's the experience been like being one of the leaders on this team?
I mean, being a senior is an entirely different role that brings on a lot of expectations and a lot of people watching you and looking at you for a lot of things that I'm not really used to. However, it's awesome, and I think it's really allowed our senior class to bring a different kind of energy to the team. I think this year we have a lot of freshmen coming in who have been getting a lot of minutes, and that has definitely impacted the way that we've been playing in a really positive way. As you saw in the game against Hassan, like 3 goals from our freshman, I think it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, so being a captain, it doesn't really mean much. We all are really doing a lot as a senior class. I think there's 9 people, and we all kind of bring a different role in that leadership part. But yeah, it's been awesome.
The Emerson match, 0-0, scoreless draw, no overtime anymore in the regular season, so just 90 minutes. You got the shutout. You had a big save in the first half. Take us through that particular save to preserve the shutout there in the early part of the game, I guess.
I actually watched it back today because I was remembering it in my head as being this really feel-good save. And sometimes I think for goalies especially, it's a huge mental game. You know, a lot of the game you're not seeing action, but then there are these few moments where people are really depending on you to make these game-saving saves, essentially. So I guess in that moment, nothing was going through my head except just save this ball. And, I think a couple of our players got beat before it came to me, but it was right outside of the 6-yard box. One of our defenders did a pretty good job in showing her one side, which helped me read that she was going to be forced to the left. And so I was kind of in a little bit of a panic mode just because of those like close range shots. It's a low percentage in what you're able to save just because there's not much time for the reaction there. But yeah, she showed me the left side. The defender was showing her the left side, and I was able to kind of sneak my hand in and get the deflection out. So it felt really great. And I looked back on it and it looked a little bit anticlimactic, but it definitely turned out to be a game-saving stop. And I think that the game in general, the conditions were pretty rough, and obviously those are not excuses, but the heat was tough. And so I think that that kind of made the game a lot more difficult in terms of like endurance and keeping up with the full 90 with that exhaustion. And I was honestly pretty shocked that there wasn't time for water breaks or anything because we had a couple of players that cramped up at some point. So yeah, I just think. Okay. Yeah.
Because they work those into college soccer sometimes, right?
Yeah. And I'm sure that I don't think it's a rule that you have to give those, but those would have been game-saving,
right?
Honestly.
Was it on turf?
It was on turf, so you have that
even
part.
Hotter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, it was a great save, but it didn't look like it when I looked back on it, so... Gotcha. Not trying to not hype myself up, but yeah.
Well, the team off to a great start, 2-0-1 so far. You've got a home game. This is coming out on Tuesday, so we're going to say a home game tonight. For those of you listening, 8 o'clock, UNE. So it'll be right there at Garcelon Field. You should stop on by to watch the Bobcats. But, I mean, the start of the season so far, how have you seen it as a senior, maybe compared to previous years and just the team, off to such a great start here?
Mindset and culture, I think, are a big, big part of winning games because every game in our schedule is so competitive, and every team that we play it's going to be a battle. So I think a big part of this year is orienting our mindset that no matter who we're playing, just, remember like our identity and the goals that we have together, that we've created together, that we spent a lot of time in preseason cultivating together, and applying that to the game and kind of just tuning out those external factors like who is the team that we're playing, like who is on it. Like obviously some of those things are important, but at the end of the day, it's the energy and the teamwork that you bring in that moment into the game that really matter. So I think the fact that we have so many new people on the team, we have a whole new leadership. Obviously, that happens with seniors going and new senior class rising. I I think that's been a huge shift, and just the energy of the team in general, I think has been a huge impact. We're a very silly, goofy team this year, but I think that's really contributed to like a more natural style of play, and kind of allowing that those moments together where we're having fun, but also being competitive and playing good soccer. I think that's been a big part of our win so far.
Great. And then, you're a senior now. This is actually, I think, the first time you've been on the Bobcast. So I wanted to go back.
Yeah.
Growing up, take us through when you started, a lot of kids play soccer, but when you started really getting into it, and when you started, hey, maybe I can play in college, and also maybe goalkeeper, how you got into that role.
Yeah. I think my identity in terms of where I grew up has been a huge component in that. So I grew up on Martha's Vineyard, and I loved growing up there, but it's a really small community and similar to Bates in that way, which is great, and I'm used to it. However, on the Vineyard, when I was in high school, there wasn't a lot of attention and resources that the athletic departments needed. And so I guess my exposure and kind of confidence into considering collegiate soccer and athletics in general was my choice to play club soccer, except there are no club soccer teams on the Vineyard. So I was traveling 3 to 4 times a week to go to soccer practices, and it was a huge commitment. But I think it was also a reminder of how much I loved and cared for the game of soccer, and how much joy it brought me, even though it was absolutely grueling with leaving school early on to go to the 2:30 boat, not getting to practice until 4:35, and then trying to just make the last boat home on the 9:45 boat and getting home at 11 p.m. It was a lot, but I think that really built a lot of commitment and passion for soccer. So I would say my identity of where I grew up definitely played a role in my commitment to soccer, but I've also played a goalie ever since I was a kid. So that's kind of been a constant for me. And that's a question that a lot of people ask me sometimes is, when did you decide to become a goalkeeper, Ruby? And then I tell them, well, I tried being a field player the first year, and it wasn't that I was even bad. It was just I didn't like it. And they stuck me in goal one time, and I was like, yes, I love it when people are kicking a ball at me as hard as they can and I have to stop it. So it was always the thrill I loved. And it's a whole different sport within the game, huge individual game, different kinds of techniques you have to work on. But it's also a really vital part of the team. And you still have to use your feet too. So
right.
You got to be good at soccer.
For sure. I mean, so you mentioned no club teams on Martha's Vineyard. So how long is that trip? Where were you playing?
So I played for a club team. I changed a couple times. It was also based on other Islanders that were playing in that club because you would carpool. Okay. But as soon as I got my license, I was driving. Yeah. And my parents were working, so they were unable to bring me. So as soon as I was able to drive myself, that was it. So it wasn't like I could do work. But anyway, so I first started playing with LFC, Liverpool Football Club, and then once my friends kind of weren't as into that, I joined another club called Seacoast United, which there were girls that were, I think, 04s at the time that I started traveling with them a little bit when I could, but a lot of the time it was on my own. But yeah, I think that was based in Duxbury was a lot of the practices, which is about 45 minutes away from Woods Hole, which is where the boat gets into. So, yeah, it wasn't 2 hours of driving, but it's a lot.
Still a lot, yeah. Yeah. And then when you're looking at colleges, what made Bates the place for you?
So, I love East Coast. I love New England, and I didn't really want to make a huge jump location-wise because this was what was comfortable for me, and also growing up in such a small place, I didn't feel comfortable making some big change. But also, I had done a lot of research about NESCAC teams, and I emailed a bunch of coaches, and this was during my COVID year. Right. So I didn't get to go to any ID clinics or any stuff like that to get exposure. So it was all my film from my high school games, which were rough film to be using. But hey, it worked. So, but yeah, I just sent a bunch of emails out to coaches, and Coach Very, he emailed me back and said that he was interested. So I was deciding between Bates and Vassar for a bit, but I liked the location of Bates as well. Being in Maine, I have a lot of family here, and I liked the academic rigor here a lot a lot more. And it just felt like a right fit. And another thing that kind of drew me in was the people. The people that I spoke to on FaceTime and calls on the team. I just had an immediate connection with them in a way that I didn't with the other folks that I spoke with when I was going through the recruitment process. So, and I think that's kind of what I commented on about like the team culture is it's really based on people too. You know, that's what really makes sports worth it is the people that are around you. So, yeah.
Excellent. You'd been to Maine quite a few times, it sounds like, as a family?
Yeah. My uncle, my aunt, my grandparents. Yeah, I have a lot of people.
Yeah. Do they come to the matches a lot?
Yeah. And it's so great to see them, you know.
Yeah.
It's a great way to kind of reconnect with family and have an excuse for them to come to me, you know. And I try to see them on weekends when I can, but you know, time is limited in season, but even out of season with the workload, it's hard. So that's a great space to bring us all together too. And my little cousins think I'm like U.S. women's national soccer player because they sometimes put my games on the TV and love watching me. So that feels good being a role model to them too. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I mean, just being your senior year, what are some kind of goals you have in your mind, how you want to cap off your college career here?
It's sad to think about, but also exciting in terms of what's left of the season.
Yeah.
I guess my goal this season is to not get too caught up in the long term and just focus on our short term goals and winning those games. And we're starting off super strong, which I'm happy about. But yeah, not getting complacent in those wins, continuing to work for those wins, and not being intimidated by any of the NESCAC, you know, big names that we're playing, and just having that belief. And it's worked. So let's hope it keeps working.
Absolutely. Bobcats are 2-0-1. They're 1-0 in NESCAC. That 1-0 win over Freddie. That must have been a satisfying way to start the NESCAC season, right?
Oh, my gosh. I was so excited. I think in the live interview, I was like, I literally ran the entire way of the field just to say hi. Because there's sometimes I'm like, yeah, I probably shouldn't because people don't usually do that. And if they're going to like take the kickoff quick. Yeah, I was so excited. And, you know, Saw is an awesome player and a good friend. And I was super excited for her, but also just our team as a whole. And yeah, it worked out because like I said last year, we were the team that was getting scored on in the last 5 minutes of the game. And it felt terrible.
Right.
And, you know, I think this year it's keeping that momentum and composure through the entire 90, which is tough, but is necessary in order to win games, and we did it. So, yeah.
Awesome. Next up, UNE, then at Wesleyan on Saturday, back home against Maine Maritime next Monday, and then another NESCAC home match will be on the 28th against a tough Amherst team. But Ruby Reimann, thanks so much for joining us on the Bobcast. Congrats to the great start of the year.
Yeah, thank you.
Men's soccer rookie goalkeeper George Nassar stepped up and made a huge penalty kick save in the 90th minute last Tuesday at the University of New England. The save preserved a 1-0 win for the Bobcats, and for his efforts, Nassar landed on ESPN SportsCenter's top 10 plays of the day, making it the second straight week that Bates Soccer has been featured on ESPN. Nassar, who hails from Lebanon, joins the Bobcast to discuss the men's soccer team's 3-1 start to the year. Well, George, a little bit about your background to start. Born and raised in Lebanon, moved to the United States when you were 16 in Massachusetts. But tell me a little bit about growing up in Lebanon and when you started playing soccer, and also maybe when you started becoming a goalie.
I started playing soccer around when I was 10 years old. And we had this small field next to our school where every day we would just go play. And then they didn't have a goalie, actually, to go in goal. So I was like, sure, let me go in goal. And then apparently I had some really good saves. And one of the coaches there was like, do you usually play goalie? And I said, yeah, I actually just forgot my gloves that day. So after that, I bought my gloves and just started playing goalie the whole day. Then I started taking it more serious around 14, 15 when I joined an academy, and one of the coaches there wanted me to try out for the national team. So I did that. It went really well. I played with the national team for about 2 years, from U14s, 15s to U17s. We had a couple tournaments in Saudi and in Jordan, which went really well.
Well, let's elaborate more on the experience competing for the national team, because there's different types of national teams, right? This would be like a U17 or U16 specific, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
What was that experience like? I mean, what were some highlights, I guess?
I mean, it was awesome, especially in a small country like Lebanon.
Yeah.
The academies you play, you see most of the players there in the national team with you, so you already know most of the players. But it was awesome getting to know everyone more. And when traveling, you get to experience different cultures, different religions with all the players there.
Excellent. What prompted you to decide you wanted to come to the United States and study?
I mean, it was mostly my parents' decisions.
Okay.
Yeah. My mom found work here, and my dad wanted all of us to move out of Lebanon because of the political state it's at right now.
Mm-hmm. And so the transition to life in the United States, you moved here when you're 16. What was that experience like? What was the best part? What was the hardest part?
I mean, drastic change was probably the culture. Yeah, and especially the culture change in high school because the two high schools are way different. I went to private school in Lebanon, but then I went to public school here.
When did you start feeling comfortable? I mean, you only moved here a couple years ago, so.
Yeah, I'd say around my start of senior year, that's where everything started to feel like home more, especially with soccer because people get to know me as that, like, the goalie. And then I just started having way more friends, which was awesome.
Great. So you're looking at colleges, I'm sure, when you're a senior in high school. What made Bates the place for you? I mean, obviously, you'd probably never been to Maine before, but it wasn't too far from Massachusetts, so.
Yeah, so one of my assistant goalie coaches, his sister went to Bates, and I had a long talk with her, and she said it was awesome. The people there are just great to know. And then every single other person who I talked to about Bates said they had a really great time here, and a lot of diverse people are here. And I was like, I'm from Lebanon, so that might fit the category. And then Noah Riskin, the previous coach, reached out to me, and he just piqued my interest because he also said that I would get playing time if I decided to come to Bates, which is one of my top priorities.
And you are getting playing time with our new head coach, Ben Brewster. And not only did you get playing time, you got on national television, making the game-saving save against UNE. Bobcats up 1-0, penalty kick. Got on SportsCenter after you made the save. When you're approaching a penalty kick like that as a goalie, I mean, that's got to be the most nerve-wracking situation and difficult situation. How do you approach things?
I thought it was unfortunate that we just got a penalty in the last seconds, but I just had to focus a lot on the player. And Coach Brewster also showed us film from previous games about the penalty takers. It wasn't the same one, but also gave me an idea how they like to take their penalties. And I like to just trash talk the players before he takes the penalty, just try to get in his head. And all the pressure's supposed to be on him because it's the last second. But as a freshman, the pressure's also on you. But I just decided where I wanted to jump and just went there, trusted everything, had faith in God, and it just happened.
That's excellent. Can you tell me what kind of trash talk you were delivering?
Yeah, sure. I just kept on telling him that it was not his day. That it was not his day. And that was mostly it. I said, go back to your bench after that.
And your teammates, I saw after Noah cleared it away, right?
Yeah, I mean, Noah doesn't get enough credit for that. But, yeah, I want to clarify that half that penalty save was Noah saving it after my rebound.
Yeah, excellent. And I saw them all surrounding you, though, kind of congratulating you. What was that moment like?
It felt awesome. It felt great. Yeah, it was liberating, to say the least.
And then to find out you'd made national television, what was your reaction?
It was awesome. So we went back to the bus. I pulled out my phone. I was like, "Wait, that's me on SportsCenter," and it was really fun. Yeah, I never thought I'd be on SportsCenter, which is cool.
Excellent. And then just college soccer compared to growing up. What's it been like compared to your teams in Lebanon, your team in high school in Massachusetts? What's been the transition like to college soccer so far?
I'd say especially in the NESCAC, it's way more physical than technical because most of the teams here, I feel like, have the physical aspect of the game, just maybe lack it technically. So it gets into this rough battle physically, which you just have to go through for 90 minutes.
Yeah, you guys got the NESCAC win to start the conference season against Trinity going back a couple of weeks now, but what was that like to have your first conference win to get off to such a strong start like that?
I mean, I thought we really needed it, especially from our games last year. I thought getting the first NESCAC game would start us on the right step. We played really well, I think. We could have played better, but it is what it is. I also had some of my friends on Trinity who said that we played better. We're playing better than last year, which is really good, especially under a new coach. That's the momentum you want to build up from the new season.
I was going to say, I guess you probably know some of the other first years throughout the NESCAC, right? Yeah. From your 2 years you were in Massachusetts, is that right?
Yeah, that's true.
So what's that like to have other people in the conference to kind of trade notes with?
It's honestly nice to know that you're also in this community that you already know people with. I have some friends in Connecticut College who text me, how's the team doing? We just played Hamilton, or we just played at Williams. we beat them this score or that score. It's nice to like keep in touch with all of them and see how they're doing.
Terrific. So what are some goals the team has kind of going forward? Obviously, a strong start to the year. Non-conference setback on Saturday, but you're back in conference play soon enough. You still have a few more non-conference games first, though, I think. What are some goals the team has kind of talked about, I guess?
I mean, most of our goals we had were really specific goals, like maybe 5 clean sheets in NESCAC, and then Kings of Maine, which is would basically be every team in Maine.
Yeah.
And then another goal we had is 11 NESCAC goals.
Okay.
Yeah, so we just try to build on those specific goals, which eventually lead us to qualify to our main achievement or goal, which is to qualify for NESCAC playoffs.
Sure, and speaking of scoring goals, I want to give Tife Agumle a shout-out because he's already got 4 goals this year.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, you're watching things from your spot on the goal, but what's it like watching him go to work across the field?
I mean, I'm used to him taking shots at me all the time. Me and him have this rivalry going on. He's a really good goal scorer. I think he should have more confidence, though, up top because he's a really great player. He just doesn't know it.
That's a good point. You go up against the guys in practice. What's that like, kind of?
I mean, we just have this rivalry between each other. Yeah, this like just being more ambitious and try to help each other out, being more competitive. Especially with Tife, I like to nudge on him the whole time because I think he could really score a lot of goals this year.
Yeah, he's already got 4 matches total from last year. He was all NESCAC last year, so that's pretty exciting. Any other thoughts you wanted to share on the season so far and your life at Bates? A few weeks in.
I mean, I really like the school from what I've seen. The classes have been awesome, and socially it has been ambitious. Like a lot of people are outgoing, and then in the dorms, a lot of people are not just like hiding inside their rooms. They're like outgoing, trying to have new friends, which is really nice. I really liked it.
Awesome. George Nassar, top 10 plays on SportsCenter for his game-saving save against UNE last week. You can check that out on our YouTube channel, and it's hard to miss. Thanks so much for joining us on the Bobcast. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was awesome.
The women's golf team placed 8th out of 13 schools over the course of 2 days this past weekend at the Polar Bears Shootout. Meanwhile, the men's golf team tees off for the first time this fall, this Saturday and Sunday at the Williams Invitational, held at Taconic Golf Club. Senior captains Will Phillips and Freddie Curtis preview the season. Will, I think this is the first time you've been on the Bobcast. So
it is, yes.
Let's start with you. Just give us an idea of your background. You're from Oregon. How did Bates get on your radar for college?
Yeah. From Oregon. Both my parents went to NESCAC schools, and so naturally I looked at those for college, and I knew I wanted to play golf in college. Talked to a bunch of the NESCAC golf coaches, and Bates was the one that answered the call, so to speak.
And growing up, how did you first get into the sport?
Yeah, I credit my dad to that. Definitely played with him all growing up. When I was very young, got my first set of clubs. Didn't really play competitively until high school, but I was playing every summer with him and just kind of fell in love with the game, yeah.
Excellent. Well, Freddie, you and Will are the captains this year, so what's it like having that leadership role?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Aaron, thanks for having us back on the Bobcast. Really appreciate it when you get the Bates golf team out there.
Can't believe I didn't mention that there.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, it's great. Obviously, Will and I have been really close friends all throughout Bates, and there's no other person who I'd rather be leading the golf team with. We have our own strengths, weaknesses, but I feel like we really balance each other out, which is just great. When we're leading a small team, I think you need strong leaders and people who aren't afraid to speak up and make sure that everything's going well. So I think that me and Will are a great fit for the role, definitely.
Great. So let's take a look at the roster this year. I know a few guys are abroad, but we'll break it down for us. Who are some of the returnees who we can expect to see?
So obviously we got, as the seniors, we have me, Freddie, Nate, and Will.
Yep.
All been on the team all 4 years. Great guys, a great kind of returning senior class. And then for juniors, like we said, we have Henry, who's abroad right now, so no juniors on the team currently. And then we go to sophomores. We have Arthur and Charlie. Both played really well last year, both in practice and in tournaments, so we're excited to have them. And then we're really excited about our 4 freshmen. It's the largest class we've had, and we've got kids from all over. We have Sean from Massachusetts. We have Zach from Florida. We have George from North Carolina. And then we have Stanley from Ohio. So it's a good spread. They're all great players and all great kids.
You mentioned Henry, who is abroad this fall, but of course he had an amazing performance at last year's NESCAC Championships, sharing medalist honors. Do you kind of take credit for him coming to Bates? Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know if I would take credit for that. Henry and I were friends in high school, and he mentioned that he was interested in maybe trying to play on the high school team, and I told him that would be a great idea. And now he's better than me, which is crazy, but And then when he was looking at schools for college, I kind of talked to him a little bit about his interest in playing golf. And if there was a legitimate interest there, I said Bates would be a great spot for him. So I think he found coach on his own. I was just there to help him if he needed anything, but he did that whole process on his own, and could not be happier to have him both in high school and now in college.
Excellent. And Freddie, as one of the captains, we talked about that. You mentioned 4 first years. So what's kind of your message to the first year group about what it takes to succeed in college golf?
Yeah, no, as Will was saying, 4 new freshmen is great. Obviously, we just lost 4 seniors who are all a big core part of our team, but it seems like the chemistry and the ability hasn't gone anywhere. We got 4 great guys coming in. We had a really, really good team last year, but it seems like it's just going to even be a better team this year. I mean, Will and I can relate to this. Coming into the team as freshmen, you're expected to play well. You're expected to have all these great tournament scores. But I'd say just kind of like to them, just play your own game, stick to your routine, stick to what's worked for you in the past, and don't feel as if there's any big expectation on your shoulders. I mean, it takes time for everyone. I know that Will and I took some time to kind of like find our grooves for the team, but it seems like the 4 freshmen are already playing their games right now at this point. So it's super impressive to see, and I'm super excited to see how they develop as golfers and people over the next 4 years, definitely.
Excellent. And then Will, the director of men's golf here is Sean Warren, who is kind of a New England legend, really.
Yes.
What's it like learning from him?
It's great. It's great. I don't think there's anybody even remotely close to us that knows more about the golf swing than him. And so to have him on the range and on the course is invaluable. I think he's definitely been able to mold our games to become better players. And that's not only like the golf swing, but also just kind of course management and knowing how to score. So it's an absolute treat working with him. Like I said, nobody really knows more about the swing and about the game. And then even just going out and playing with him is so fun just to see him play his game. He's an incredible golfer, and so at the very least, just to be able to watch what he does is great.
Yeah, and Freddie, what have you picked up from him?
Yeah, he has a really different approach to golf than we do, particularly because he's been, a professional golfer. Yeah. He's played in 3 PGA championships. He's been in these super pressure-packed situations. So for him, a Division III program, it seems like he just has so many things that he's learned about golf over the years that he can apply to our team to make it better. And then like Will says, when it comes to tournaments, like he's been there before. It's not like we have a coach who has played a little bit of golf and like he's kind of just there to be an authoritative figure. Coach Warren has really been under the spotlight, and he knows what it's like to be under the pressure. He knows what it's like to make mistakes and to recover. And then, like Will was saying, really good swing coach, but also just he has a really good mentality about the game. He teaches us how to score, how to do course management, and how to really work our way around the golf course, and how to just stay in the moment and not get too ahead of yourself, and help us realize that, hey, like it's 18 holes. Like if you mess up one of them, like just keep your head on your shoulders and just try to like grind it out, and like at the end of the day, you can have a great score.
Well, speaking of stepping up in the biggest moments, last year at NESCACs, you guys tied for 3rd with Trinity, who was, I think, the pre-tournament favorite, if you will. So What was that experience like from your perspective?
Yeah, especially having the team be in a 1-stroke lead after day 1.
Yes,
it was definitely an invaluable experience. Just going and having the overnight lead, going in, playing in the last couple groups, it's just such a great experience. And even outside of golf, I think everyone who was there that day is going to carry that experience and the emotions that they felt with them throughout their entire lives.
Do you have any trouble falling asleep that night, Freddie?
Not really, but took some melatonin to make it easier.
There we go. I was going to say, find out you're in the lead after day 1 must be crazy, right?
I was sitting in a different country watching the leaderboard, and I almost jumped out of my chair when I saw the leaderboard. I called Freddie and I said, "Is this real?
Yeah.
Is this actually? There must be a typo or something." And he said, "No, man, we played great today.
Yeah.
It was a good time."
Yeah, everyone just showed up. And on the topic of NESCACs, I mean, the Bates College golf team really seems to show up in NESCACs. I know 3 years ago we got 8th. Last year we got 3rd, and the year before that we got 4th. So we're seeing a clear upward trajectory, and we're just trying to keep that momentum going throughout this year, definitely.
So you were abroad.
I was abroad second semester last year.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. So you were kind of tracking it. From what country?
I was in Spain. Spain, and nobody else around me at all cared about NESCAC golf. I was trying to tell my friends, and they really could care less. But it was great. It was great, and I called everyone on the team kind of in between right after the first round just to check in and make sure it was real.
No typos.
It was real, yeah. And I was definitely very proud sitting out there, obviously wishing I could play, but knowing that the boys had it under control.
And you did get the chance 2 years ago when we hosted, right, in Martindale?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did, and that was a great tournament for us. I think that was a big step up, like Freddie was saying, with the trajectory of the team. It's positive in my eyes that every year we're just keeping up and getting a little bit better. And yeah, I mean, just in relation to this year, we feel the same way. We feel like we have a great team this year, kind of built by that foundation of the seniors, and then with the 4 new freshmen coming in, we're a much deeper team than we've ever been before. So we're really feeling positive about this year. We got our first tournament this weekend at Williams, which is where NESCACs will be held in the spring.
Okay.
So it'll be a great preview. Freddie and I have played the course a million times, but it'll be good for the rest of the team to see it, to see what it's going to be like come spring.
Yeah, Taconic Golf Club, it seems like, we play there every year. What's that course like, Freddie?
Yeah, so I mean, every year it's ranked like either first or second best college golf course by Golf Digest in the entire NCAA. So just tournament aside, it just always is just a huge privilege and huge treat to just be able to play that course and to be able to be there with a college golf team. It's just always so good to just take it all in and just stay present and just enjoy the golf course. But it's always Josh Hillman, the Williams coach, always does a great job making the tournament so great. I mean, the course is always in great shape. He's always the rules official, and he's always making sure that the tournament is just being facilitated greatly. And it's always a great time going out there, driving out there with the team. It's always beautiful, especially in the fall, seeing all the foliage, especially when you get closer to Williamstown. And it's always a great time with the golf team over there.
Yeah, just looking at the fall schedule, if I recall, I'm touching my memory, your breakout tournament last year was Skidmore, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so you're looking forward to going back there?
Yeah, I'm super excited to go back there, yeah.
Yeah, what was clicking that day?
So actually, it was a 2-day tournament, but the first day got rained out. Right. So we weren't even sure if we were going to play the second day because the course was so wet. But no, I played with my friend Colin McCaig on the Middlebury team, who I've grown up playing with. He's always been a little better than me, but it was good to be in that day, and everything was going right. Yeah, I mean, the team had a great day too, and just everything was going right, making putts, hitting fairways, and just having a fun time with my friend.
Will, as one of the leaders of this team, are there any tournaments that stand out to you? I mean, this fall in particular, is CBB the biggest one in your opinion, or how does it go? Kinda?
Yeah, I just love Taconic.
Okay,
and I've played it a lot, and so this tournament this weekend for me is the biggest one. I've played it like just outside of college golf many times with my dad. He went to Williams, and so we've played in like alumni tournaments there. And I know Josh pretty well, so I'm probably the most excited for this coming weekend. I love the course too. I've played well there in the past, and so hopefully start off this season, the fall season, with a couple good rounds there. But yeah, that's the one that I'm most excited about, just from a pure kind of like course side of things. The CBB is always fun, and that's more of a kind of a camaraderie and team event, and we feel like we have a good chance in that one this year as well. So both of those are great, but I do have a kind of a special place for Taconic. I love that course.
How about you, Freddie?
Just adding to that, the CBB is big tournament. Bowdoin's won it 6 times. Bates has won it 5 times. So we're trying to balance it out again. Big rivalry. You get a trophy if you win that one. But also the NEIGA championship, the last tournament of the year. We're the only NESCAC school playing in that tournament, so we're kind of representing the NESCAC, and that's a tournament that we're going to be trying to win, hopefully. And those, as Will said, I mean, every tournament's great. The Williams course, the Williams tournament, just amazing. But in my eyes, the CBB and the NEIGA championships are the ones to look forward to.
Definitely. Well, any other thoughts, Will, you wanted to share on the upcoming golf season we haven't gotten to talk about yet?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to share one thing, and I think that's just to kind of encourage the Bates community to get a little bit more involved in golf and come out. I know it's kind of a strange sport to watch for people. I don't know many college students that take time out of their weekends to go watch a golf event. But I would say it's a really fun time. It's beautiful. You're outside walking around. And you get to see some Bates kids and some other NESCAC kids playing. We had some great friends of ours last year come out to a bunch of tournaments, and it makes a huge difference from our perspective to have just a couple friends right on the side watching you play. I know we don't have any tournaments this fall season directly here at Martindale at Bates, but I would say if you've never been to a golf tournament before and you're thinking about it, you're interested, grab a couple friends, make an hour or two drive. We do have one at Bowdoin. That's a pretty short drive. and just come see what it's about.
I was going to say, yeah, Bowdoin September 28 and 29, returning to the success of the NESCACs last year, which were at Bowdoin.
Exactly.
And then CBB, that might be a fun one at Waterville.
Exactly.
Something Turnpike at 11 a.m. on October 5th. So definitely a chance for Bates students to get there. And Freddie, any other thoughts you wanted to mention?
No, I totally agree with Will. Last year at NESCACs, we had a bunch of people come out and support, a lot of the baseball guys, and it really just helps with the energy of the tournament, and it really helps us play well. And as Will was saying, we have the Bowdoin tournament. We also have the CBB at Waterville. So those are two great opportunities to come see your friends play and help keep the energy strong. And it just, I'd highly encourage anyone who wants to learn more about golf too, just to come out and watch us play. It's always a great time on the course.
Excellent. Freddie Curtis, Will Phillips, senior captains for men's golf. They are at Williams this Saturday and Sunday to start their fall season. Thanks so much for joining us on the Bobcast. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks for having us on.
Both tennis teams are in action this weekend for the first time this fall. The men's tennis team heads to the Middlebury Invitational, while the women's tennis team is in Brunswick for the ITA New England Championships. As we mentioned earlier, it's a new era for the Bates tennis program, and head coaches Paul Gastonguay from the class of 1989 and Deepak Sharma join us to explain the new setup and their hopes for the season. Paul, let's start with you because you're the longest tenured head coach here at Bates, and for many years you've been coaching both the men's and women's tennis teams, and that's changing this year. Take us through that decision-making process and why you wanted to not step back, but have more focus on the men's team for yourself, and then also be able to oversee the tennis program in general.
Well, it was a necessary change to be competitive. The landscape in collegiate athletics at the top level, these teams are all coached by two head coaches and many cases 2 full-time assistants on top of that. And we were for many, many years, undermanned, so to speak, and trying to, do the best we could with the resources that we had. And so it was a push that we were always trying to make. However, it takes a commitment from the institution, and, that's where we're so grateful for President Jenkins and Jason Fine to support us in this way and give us an opportunity to be competitive the way we'd like to be. So, choice between the programs of both my programs. Originally, I started with the men,
right,
and I was men's tennis, men's squash when I originally came in, and then 5 years later, we decided the other coach at the time, John Illig, was the women's counterpart, women's tennis, women's squash, and was more of a focus on squash for him. That was his expertise, and so we kind of put our heads together and said, hey, let's, my background's tennis, yours is squash, let's make the switch. And so little did I know it was going to take about 20 years for a little bit longer, 22 years for it to switch over, where we'd have, the ability to coach one team at a time. So, I love both teams. They're both my teams for forever, and they're just amazing human beings, and they just put so much into it. And so, honestly, the struggle in the last 6 years has been our conference has made that transition to have two head coaches, and teams that were like me 6 years ago made that change. And so recruiting was more difficult, just perception-wise. Little didn't everyone know that, I worked 12 hours a day on court with both teams just to keep us competitive. And so I'm just really psyched that we have an amazing coach for the women's team that's going to be able to devote his entire, day, week, season to them, and I can focus more on the men's side. That being said, we're working a lot together. We're doing team building stuff. We just had an amazing day on Saturday with Special Olympics, and we're all hands on deck. We had, 22, athletes out there, and it was amazing. What a great day. And so, but to have Deepak on staff with just a great mentality, really positive, very similar, philosophy. It was very apparent in our search that he was the perfect fit for our program, and super excited to have him with us.
Great. And Deepak, tell us a little about yourself. Introduce yourself to the Bobcat fans out there, your background, how you first got into tennis, and how you first got into coaching, perhaps.
First got into tennis was just through my parents. Growing up, I was the ball kid when they go play at the local park, and fell in love with it there. I had a sister, started taking lessons. A sister also who played competitively. She played at the University of Connecticut. I ended up at the University of Richmond, Virginia. And, for me, it was always this love about not just a passion for tennis, but passion for college tennis. There's something about putting on the uniform, something about going out there with your teammates, taking an individual sport and turning it into a team sport. To me, is like the biggest honor, and it's the best coaching job you could possibly have, is to do that in specific to tennis, because it is an individual sport going into a team environment. After college, I focused a lot on corporate in New York, and then made a transition into focusing on some of my music projects, and then also focusing on coaching. Actually, coaching with one of Paul's former players, Alex McDonald, down in New York, and that really ignited something in me. And next thing you know, I'm volunteer assistant at Fordham University, and then interim head coach there, then assistant coach, and then last year I was the director of tennis over at Marist College, a Division I school in Poughkeepsie, New York, where I oversaw everything for both the men's and women's. So it was kind of a quick jump into coaching in college, but I think the passion for tennis and the passion for team tennis has always been there.
I'm curious, you said you started out kind of in the corporate world in New York, and then moving into the college campus situation. What was that kind of transition like? I mean, you obviously had played in college, but to be working for a school versus like working for a large company or something.
I think the college environment, I mean, if it's more exciting, it's more interesting. People that you meet between the staff, faculty, of course, the students, adds a little bit of energy and spice to the day. Of course, being a tennis coach, we're outside, so we're able to enjoy that indoors sometimes as well. So you're not necessarily confined to an office space. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just for me, I think I needed to roam a little bit, and being on a college campus and being able to coach and then obviously handle your admin duties. It's a balance between all that, but being on the campus, I mean, you definitely feed off I'm an energy guy, so you feed off the energy of your players, of your staff, of you, Aaron. You feed off of all that. So then, it makes things really, really, it doesn't really feel like work.
Yeah.
You're just kind of doing your day.
What about the Bates opportunity appealed to you?
Yeah, so I think there's three things to that. The first thing was actually learning and working with Paul. That was, I think, really important for me to step into a place where you feel supported. You have some great leadership. What he's done here is nothing short of amazing. It's established. It's an established brand. It's an established school. It's an established program. So that was really, really meaningful to me to be able to have an opportunity to learn from somebody like that. The other thing was just the facilities. I think it's a world-class place. So the facilities are top-notch. To have 8 lighted courts. I don't think people really understand how hard that is for colleges to have that and universities to have that. And then on top of that, to have 4 indoor courts on campus. It's at my last job, I mean, as a Division I school, we would drive 10 miles to play indoor tennis. And we're in the Northeast, so you're looking at 2-3 months of doing that. So matches were held there. So here, to be able to have that, I think the facilities are top notch. And then just again, coaching one team was also really, really important for me. I did notice with myself at my previous job, just being stretched thin. So I give Paul a lot of credit for doing it for 22 years.
Right.
I did it for 1, and I mean, I was almost, I was broken by the end of it. But it's really hard, So I think like having one team, and I noticed it also. We're just being balanced and being able to coach one team and focus on the needs of one team and one squad. Of course, I'm in Paul's office all the time. We're just talking shop. So it's that type of relationship. But then we kind of manage our teams. But, I ask him what he's doing. He'll check out what the ladies are doing. And so it's sort of just giving each team the TLC they deserve, but then just working together towards like building up what we're doing and sticking to what he's already established and what the values of the college are, but just trying to, again, like compete for titles in the NESCAC.
Excellent. Well, and Paul, you touched on this. This is kind of the setup you wanted for a long time, but it is a new setup. So how do you kind of envision it working with Coach Sharma here?
Well, I'm trying to give him like full autonomy. Like he said, we're very collaborative, and so we talk shop all the time. I'm learning from him. He's learning from me. I think as a coach, like that's the mindset you have to have is, I can learn from anyone and try something new. And, so that works really well, and we bounce stuff off each other. But, we're here to collaborate and work with each other. But, the ability, to focus on recruiting for one, team and focus on the flow of the season for one team is huge because, in the past, it was always like do the best, but you're always borrowing from one team to pay the other, and it was flipping back and forth. And we've had the most incredible student athletes in our program forever, and they've always been so accommodating and just so willing to make that sacrifice. But I'm super competitive, and so is Deepak, and so are our teams. And when the landscape around you changes, it's like, look, we have to change too. So this is like a huge shot in the arm. We can really put more time in. It's not about taking a step back. It's about putting more time into one of the teams for each coach. So the flow is better, the concentration is better, and we're hoping to make some big gains here in the next couple of years.
This weekend's kind of a perfect example of why this setup probably is ideal, right? Because you have the teams at different spots. You got women's tennis at Bowdoin for ITA New England's, and the men are going to Middlebury for the Middlebury Invitational. And Paul, you're a great coach, but you literally can't be in Vermont and Maine at the same time. So
right. Sometimes I teleport, but no. But it was, the timing was perfect. I know NESCAC voted to have last year. They voted for this year's championships next spring to be at 2 different sites for each gender. So that was also part of the catalyst for this. But like you said, we have 2 tournaments, 2 weekends this fall that we have each a tournament on the same weekend at different places. So, it's an opportunity that we're giving our student athletes, because in the past, the women wouldn't have competed on that weekend that we're hosting our men's event, for example, because I'm running a tournament and coaching, and how am I going to get them there? And so now we have that ability. So it's going to provide many more opportunities for excellence for each team.
Excellent. Deepak, give us a preview of the women's team. What do you expect to see here at Brunswick this weekend?
Well, I was super excited with what I saw yesterday in practice, which is sort of we've been talking a lot about in the first couple of weeks, just, the mindset, staying within yourself, playing aggressively, but just kind of having that focus, that professionalism. Super impressed with the way the women played yesterday. They had sets against their teammates. The way they were using, the time in between points is key. It's one thing we've been emphasizing, and you can see them really spending time on that, which is really, really impressive. I think we're going to be very competitive in doubles. We're making big strides in terms of our ability to. We're actually trying to promote more of a go big, risky style of game. So that's one thing that Bates friends and fans could look forward to when they see us play come the spring. Is we want to go big in doubles, and we want to play risky tennis in doubles and try to knock off a couple of these teams. And so I think the team is ready. They're very eager and very impressed with their willingness to kind of accept this change, and their willingness to work with me as well. And they've been great. They've been hitting the gym hard at lift, and then practices and individual sessions too from some of the players. And so can't speak highly enough about just and this goes back to a credit to Paul and what's been established here, is it's just high caliber people. And so it becomes a real joy to come to work and work with them. So this weekend, it's going to be the first time I'm going to also learn about the conference. Bowdoin will be hosting, and so be curious to kind of see the competition level and see everything. And then we'll just, we'll have feedback, with the team after the tournament. But all 8 players are going to be in action, 6 in B flight, 2 in A flight. Okay. And 6 players are going to be playing doubles. So most of the team is going to be in action this weekend, which is going to be super exciting for me. And they deserve it. They've earned it. They've worked really, really hard. The weather's cooperating. It should be a great weekend for tennis.
And then do you have captains yet, or is that something you wait for to the spring, or not at all, perhaps?
Yeah, I think right now we're just doing kind of our leadership committee. Mm-hmm. We have 4 seniors who are doing a great job. Sort of, they've been around. They know what Bates stands for. They know the values that Paul has instilled and stuff. So there really isn't any rush to do that. I think it's more about just getting to know everybody through the semester, and then. I think it's really about aligning to those also additional values of some of the things that I've spoken to the team about in terms of just competing and, that professional mindset, and just, so maybe in the spring we'll probably come up with 1 or 2, but right now it's just really, really good to get to know everybody and just let them kind of be free and roam, of not worry about any of that. And for me too, it's just getting to know everybody. So probably in the spring, but right now it's just leadership committee.
Excellent. And Paul, how about the men's team? How are they looking headed into the Middlebury Invitational here coming up?
Looking strong. It's always that first couple days back hitting with the team to start the year, and I'm old school, and I give them an earful because it's just, no matter how much they have great intentions, but it's amazing when your coach isn't there to catch little things that can become habits over the summer unintentionally. And so like we kind of nipped those in the bud right away. We made huge strides in the last couple weeks. I'm really impressed with their compete level, with their point construction. It just gets better every day, and they're working super hard. I mean, they're a really solid group, and we have some good leadership, but everyone's leading from the ground up.
Excellent. Well, I mean, it's any other thoughts you want to share, Deepak, on your first few weeks at Bates and how they've gone? Anything you wanted to mention we haven't got to talk about yet?
I mean, I just want the community to come out and support both the men and women.
Yeah.
I think that Bates does a great job of supporting the fellow athletes, but the community. I'm excited for the brand of tennis that the women's team is playing, and they're working really hard for. Super physical. They're playing really hard. They're working really hard. Great teamwork. Just very, very thankful to this group in particular, and just looking to excited to see them in action this weekend. But I definitely just want to reach out to the community to support the tennis teams and support the women's team and obviously the men's team as well. But we have an invitational actually on October 6th. We're playing Nichols at home Sunday morning, so bring your coffee on Sunday morning and watch some tennis, and then it's going to be a beautiful fall day for tennis. So hope to see people out for that.
Paul, how about you? Any other thoughts you want to mention?
Well, we're just gearing up and trying to keep building 2% better every day.
Mm-hmm.
The big target is obviously the spring to hit the ground running, and we're putting a lot of things in place. We have 4 new players, first years, that are really high level and came in ready, playing really good ball. And we're adding pieces, and we're making them uncomfortable, and we're adding different aspects to their game to make them give them the ability to play anyone and to have some different tools, and so we're adding those, and these are big events. The Middlebury tournament we've been doing forever, and ITAs the following week. I mean, those are challenging events, but I think the mindset we always take into our tournaments is like, trust your training and play every day is match day in practice, so that we're not stepping up when we go to a tournament. We're just doing what we do every day, and that's trying to control that is really important, because the mental side of things, if you can stay within yourself and be who you are every day, really intense, free, go for it, and do the right things and adjust well, you're going to compete well. So we're just trying to stay in that zone the whole time.
Excellent. Well, looking forward to the fall schedule. The women will be home the weekend of October 5th, and the men are home the weekend of October 12th. Of course, most of the schedule will be in the spring, but some tournaments here in the fall. Deepak Sharma, head women's tennis coach, and Paul Gastonguay, head men's tennis coach here at Bates. Thanks so much for joining us on the Bobcast. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron.
In other Bates athletics news, the field hockey team is ranked 8th in the country with a 2-1 record after a tough loss to top 5 foe Babson last week. But the Bobcats get a chance to bounce back this Wednesday when they host Thomas College at 7 p.m. Meanwhile, the volleyball team went 1-2 last week with losses to Maine Maritime Academy and Smith and a 3-0 win over Salem State. The Bobcats are 4-2 overall this season, heading into the NESCAC opener Friday night when Bates hosts Amherst at 7 o'clock. Make sure you visit GoBatesBobcats.com for all the latest Bates athletics news, and we'll catch you next time on the Bates Bobcast.